So, on today's episode of Could Be Pretty Cool, as you can see, we are not in any of the usual places where we are bopping around Atlanta. We are actually joining you live from Podcast Movement Evolutions at South by Southwest. And this is very exciting for me for a few reasons. Well, first of all, just being around all these amazing creative people who I get to chat with, but also in a few months, I will be headed to a state I've never been to before, the state of New Mexico, for the Americans for the Arts AFTCON conference. And I don't know how this manifested. I just so happen to be joined by two incredible people who are going to tell us more about New Mexico economy stuff, art stuff, just what's happening. Because, I would like to know. I'm sure y'all would like to know. And I'm very, very excited. So, to start off with, Eric, would you mind telling us a little bit more about you and what it is that you do?
Certainly. So I'm in economic development in the state of New Mexico. I work for the city of Santa Fe, but I've done work in Albuquerque. I've done work around the state, primarily around media and startup scene.
Very cool. How like
Yes.
this, Bill?
Casey, thank you for having the both of us on the show. So my name is Kristelle, and I own an advertising public relations agency called Siarza, and I'm also the volunteer executive director at the Asian Business Collaborative. But for today, while we're here at South by, which is exciting, by the time that this show airs, Eric and I have completed a major project called the New Mexico House, which is an official activation here at South by.
Amazing. So I would love to know New Mexico House official activation. Is this the first year that you all have done this? What actually is New Mexico House? Tell us a little bit about
That's a
it.
great question. So we've done little bits and pieces of things before. We had a much smaller activation last year. This is the first year that we kind of went pro. So we became an official activation. We've got a really stacked deck of content and programming on stage. Some of the things that we were dreaming about last year are going to happen. So there's an indigenous fashion show. We've got a really great musical showcase, and then all the good tech investment stuff that kind of is the bread and butter of folks in the economic development world as well.
And as well as a beautiful music showcase of folks that are native to New Mexicans, like Max Gomez, who is a Tauseño. Taos is northern New Mexico with a great indie folk heritage. Defi, who is an independent Native American hip hop artist, and is such a different vibe from anything that you'll see on any coast. You're from Atlanta. I'm from the Bay. The music that he has is just one of a kind. And then, of course, we have CQ, who's a Grammy-winning percussionist who won his Grammy with Los Lobos. And so we're just really excited to have this amazing musical collection. Like, for example, you see here at South by, it's just so immersed into it. But another creative industry that not a lot of people are kind of seeing as a typical creative industry that we're highlighting at the house is the film industry. So we're also excited to feature the film folks, especially with the movie He Blood Neon, which came out of the New Mexico Film Office. And that's another great piece that we're very excited to see. So
Very cool. So, as I mentioned, this will be my first time traveling to New Mexico in a few months. I will look for anyone else who's like, oh, I've never been, or what should I, look for, especially someone who maybe is in a transitional phase in their lives. They're looking to maybe find a new city to start a business, to start a creative practice. Tell us a little bit about why New Mexico would be the spot for them to do that.
I'm glad to help.
Okay.
So New Mexico, has got its creativity is in its bones. Hundreds of years, many different cultures, all sort of blended together, and tourism and culture and the arts are really one of the big drivers of why people come to New Mexico. Sometimes it's about a Native American community. Sometimes it's George O'Keeffe. Sometimes it's some of the many new artists that are coming out of the different cities. So we've got that and one of the top art markets in the country, in Santa Fe. There's a lot of things that, we check off the blocks. We've got some of those. The thing that I'd mention right now is that one of the things New Mexico's done, and only a few states around the country, I think, have done this, is they've elevated the idea of creative industries to something that's a top line item within economic development. So it's not just you can go see the people over there.
yeah,
Don't bother us. We're doing business here. You go over there. No. In New Mexico, Creative Industries Division was founded, I think, 2 years ago. And it's
Well,
just,
actually longer than that. I'd
yeah.
say about 4 years ago at this point, 4 to
And it's
5.
really been hitting the ground. They've got a great conference series that's going on right now that may overlap a little bit with your time in the
New
state.
Mexico Creative Con.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So a lot of great things going on. And one of the things that one of the reasons why that came together is because there's so much support for the arts and creativity and culture throughout the state. So this Creative Con that
Yes.
Kristelle mentioned,
Yeah.
that's got, 7 different locations
7 different
in
locations.
different places around the state. So they stood up something the other day,
Carlsbad.
Carlsbad
Yep.
last weekend.
Clovis.
So they've got all of these different locations that's really pulling people together from the regions, but not just that, they're connecting all the creatives in the state together. So it's just a really fabulous enterprise to recognize the importance of the arts.
You bring up a really good point too when you asked, like, what is it like for somebody that's really considering working and playing in New Mexico? I'm a case study of that. So my family actually moved from the Bay Area back in 2001 because of economic development. And at the time, it was a very interesting point where, the larger cities were starting to really feel just that high pressure of high costs, especially in, gas and electric, et cetera. And one of the things I'm learning about economic development as a marketer and as a public relations person is that it all has to work together. And I think that the creative economy and economy as a whole in New Mexico is definitely at this tipping point of success. It always has been at the cusp, but right now we're at the top of the crescendo. And so it's really exciting to see folks like Eric going out and just meeting entrepreneurs. There's matching VCs and investment council funds. There's a really phenomenal startup scene, really phenomenal creative startup scene. And then the most important thing I think is, like, we'll take a canvas, for example, right? The metaphor of a canvas. A canvas is really solid when the canvas is a really good medium. And New Mexico has beautiful landscapes, beautiful diversity in its people, languages, and an accepting, lovable family attitude that really makes the creative industries or economic development whole. 100% it does.
That's so important. I love how you mentioned economic development is the blending of many different types of industries. And I also, one of the things that we're always trying to figure out is what cities, what states are actually shaping formal programs around creative industries.
Yes.
And so it's very cool to know that, like, y'all are doing that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you also work with the Asian Business Collaborative. Could you tell us a little bit more about that work?
Yeah. So the Asian Business Collaborative, a sponsor of the New Mexico House, is a nonprofit that's really wrapped in culture, specifically for the Asian community that needs a little bit more help of case management, education, and advocacy. Our goal is to actually eliminate the barriers of doing business in New Mexico by advocating for things that might not be culturally competent to everybody in the community, whether you be Asian American or not. So, and that's another thing that's really great about the Asian Business Collaborative is that we're not the only organization that is very focused on cultural business motivation or like advocacy. So we even have the Albuquerque Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We have a new Veterans New Mexico Chamber of Commerce for veterans. We also have the Black Chamber of Commerce in New Mexico, and if you were to, and then the American Indian Chamber of Commerce in New Mexico as well. And so if you were to combine all of our communities of diversity, we represent about 70 to 75% of the state of New Mexico alone. And the Asian Business Collaborative, why we're here, is that we also released our economic impact report last year, and we contribute about $2.5 billion to the New Mexico economy out of Asian-owned businesses. But the even more crazy part is that we only represent about 5% of the population. So it's a very big number for a state of only 2 million people. So these are some of the things that we're starting to kind of resurrect out of economic development because we're just all pieces to the salad of New Mexico's economic development scene.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really hungry too at the same
I was
time.
going to say, this is being recorded at lunchtime, so you might hear some food references. So my final question for you, one of the things, or another one of the things that we try to highlight in our work is that creatives do not need to move to any specific city, especially now as connected as we all are, in order to pursue a creative career. And you mentioned things about live, work, play. You mentioned things about, the vibe and the people. since we are all in a position where we can be connected to, national spaces, global spaces, someone thinking about coming to make their home in New Mexico, what would you say to them right now? Maybe it's like top 3 on their list right now. They're like, what's going to take them over the edge?
I'm thinking, I mean, even though there's this ability to connect, people find community in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different places. Some people are like fantastic and they can work online and they don't need that interpersonal connection. But I think we've got several locations throughout the state that really have this artists community, really like a tight community that's got a nice vibe to it,
So important.
and that welcomes people when they're interested in getting in. They're really there to help. It's like, how do I plug you into the system? So it's not because they recognize, wherever they came from or however they came up, they needed people who are kind of the ambassadors or kind of the wingmen that help bring you in. So that's one of the things that I think New Mexico does especially well, is we're always looking out for the other person who's coming in. How do we get them connected? How do we get them a leg up so that they can do the best work they possibly can?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, and community.
Okay,
So, and I think, especially after the pandemic, when everybody really wanted to get out and leave and interact with folks, and people just wanted to feel welcomed. People just wanted to feel seen and have those meaningful interactions. Like Eric and I have known each other since 2012 when you were part of TEDx Albuquerque. And then he's been in the economic development spaces since then, me in the marketing spaces. I'm always really impressed about how Eric and the rest of the community always has a connection to pass forward. My last text message from Eric was a connection that I needed to make because we're always looking out for each other, or we're always in the best interests of each other. Those that are not in the ecosystem are the ones that don't have anything great to say about our state, but every one of the folks that we're with always has is a big cheerleader for the people, the food, the culture, the businesses, and.
Well, I mean, I've heard nothing but great things, and I'm super excited to make my first journey very soon. For folks who are listening and are like, oh, okay, so where should I check out, or where should I go to find, more resources or just to learn more about what's happening? Where should they do that?
I mean, really, I think the best place for them to go is the State Economic Development's Creative Industries Division. I think for your market, that's the right place, the right landing pad, and they have a lot of excellent materials. Totally want them to come visit Santa Fe Economic Development, but the starting place, I'd say, is Creative Industries.
And on top of that, like Santa Fe County, like the city of Santa Fe, and the economic development team, if they go to www.newmexicohouse.org, you'll see a phenomenal list of sponsors. Those are really the change makers in our economic development community, Santa Fe included. We even have folks from the VCs, from the tourism department that are strong supporters of the New Mexico House. But the change makers are really the ones that start because they're also the connectors in the community.
Sure. So, well, I am amped, and I mean, even more so, I was already, and I'm like, oh, I'm meeting the people, and okay, so this is gonna be so much fun.
Yes.
Thank you both so much for coming to chat with me today. Folks, check out New Mexico because it sounds like it's a chill place. That shouldn't be your tagline. It's very
So we are really known as the land of enchantment in so many different ways.
Place of enchantment. That's better. That's
Yes.
better. Thank you both
Thank you so much.
much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.